In our last episode, we took a look at big songs from the small screen, those TV themes that kind of get stuck in our heads for years and we've been singing them along. Well, we're going to upgrade this time. We're still going to do big songs from media projects, but they're not from the small screen. These are the songs that we find ourselves humming on the way out of the cinema. Of course, we did 4 big songs from the small screen. This time, it's going to be big songs from the big screen. This is our regular look at what goes on inside the grooves. It's a program we call Platter Chatter. From the set of Goin Vinyl, this is Platter Chatter, our web series that features classic trends and classic tracks. I'm your host, Bill Robert, and before we get started today, I would just like to remind you that if you could, do us a big favor, click that like and subscribe button on YouTube there, and that way, if you like, especially if you like certain episodes, we know what kind of content you like and what you want to see. But also, if you subscribe, that means, obviously you'll get to come back as we give you more episodes here. In addition, you can also check us out on Facebook, by the way. We're at Goin Vinyl TV. And if you have a suggestion for a show, we did TV songs last time, we're doing movie songs this time. Maybe you want to feature on a different type of song. All you have to do is either hit us up in the comments down below on the screen here or send me an email. All you have to do is ship it off to billthedj@goinvinyl.com. So, okay, here we go. We're going to do it this time. Last time we did TV stuff. This time we're doing movie tunes. And those tunes that basically just, not only just stick in your head and you're like, oh yeah, I know that tune. This is so-and-so by so-and-so. But I mean, the song plays in your head and all of a sudden, like, you are visualizing the thing. Like, Eye of the Tiger comes on and you see Sylvester Stallone and Mr. T duking it out right in front of you there. So it's one of those things, just high recognition from classic movies. And you remember once upon a time, classic soundtracks were always like the scores, the orchestral themes, the thematic scores. But then, right around Saturday Night Live was the first one, but for a while it seemed like soundtrack albums had turned into K-Tel albums, where it was like a collection of like greatest hits where they brought in people to write different songs for the film. And it wasn't so much about the orchestral score, but it was about the pop or rock songs or country songs or whatever that were included in the soundtrack. So our first artist today, this is a guy, we could actually do basically a whole episode on this guy's movie songs. Think of the movies: Top Gun, Top Gun Maverick, Caddyshack, Caddyshack 2, there was Footloose, and there was also the Sylvester Stallone film, Over the Top. I mean, this guy's been, when it came to like go-to guys in the mid-'80s, you need someone to give you a hit song for a soundtrack, this was the guy, and this is probably the most recognizable song of his from all. Well, maybe Footloose is up there too, because it was the title track of the soundtrack and the movie. But this one here, you hear the first few notes in your head, and you're in the cockpit with Tom Cruise ready to fly off the deck of that aircraft carrier. The film is Top Gun, and of course, this is Danger Zone. How big was this song? Hit number 2 on the Hot 100. Just one slot away from the top slot on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. And instantly recognizable to this day. Even people that haven't seen Top Gun know Danger Zone, because it is still just over the years, it's omnipresent basically. It's everywhere. And obviously, when you saw the sequel a couple of years ago, Top Gun Maverick, of course they were going to start with that song again. It's so iconic. How could you not? But the thing is, and I mentioned this, we could do a whole episode just on his movie songs. Kenny Loggins actually did an album called At the Movies, and it's like all his movie stuff. And you think about the stuff, and I'm just running a quick list here. Danger Zone from Top Gun. He had another song on the Top Gun soundtrack too, Played It With the Boys. That was the one from the volleyball scene. I'm All Right from Caddyshack, and then Nobody's Fool from Caddyshack 2. Footloose. He had Footloose and also Heaven Help the Man. I think that was the name of it. So he had a couple of songs from the Footloose soundtrack. And then there was the Sylvester Stallone arm wrestling film Over the Top, where he gave us Meet Me Halfway. So literally, I mean, he was in all kinds of soundtracks in that stretch. And like I said, he actually has an album, a compilation of At the Movies, just his classic movie tunes. So I mean, that pretty much exemplifies it for you right there. The one, the only, Kenny Loggins. Now I actually referenced this before, and normally I don't reference songs that we're going to do in an episode because I don't want to spoil it, but in this particular case, it is such an iconic song. Like Danger Zone, the second you hear it come up, you know what it is. You're playing the movie scenes from your head. Of course, we're talking about Survivor. This one from Rocky III, Eye of the Tiger.
Don't lose your grip on the
So here's a funny bit of trivia. This song has become so known with Rocky 3. You hear Eye of the Tiger, you see Stallone, you see Clubber Lang, a.k.a. Mr. T. You know, it's just such an awesome film and just an awesome song to go with that film, and everything just seems so in lockstep. This was not their first choice for the song. Believe it or not, the producers of the film actually wanted to use Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. But Queen said, no thanks, that's okay, we're good, we don't need to do that. So they refused the rights to use Another One Bites the Dust in Rocky 3. So instead, Survivor, they came up with this song, and I mean, it's in the film. You know, Apollo Creed is telling Rocky Balboa, Eye of the Tiger, get that ferociousness back, you know, get that look, that hunger, that, you know, that feeling back. And so it seemed like such a slam dunk. But then you realize this song was actually Plan B because they wanted to use Another One Bites the Dust, originally. So that was pretty crazy. Now this one here, we talked about, one was a number 2 hit, one was a number 1 hit. This was a number 1 hit for 6 weeks. This was a monster, just crazy, and it was the second best-selling single for the year 1982. So. I mean, this thing did monster business, as did the movie, actually. And once again, like many of the songs I'm going to mention to you here, it's just instantly recognizable. You hear a note or two and just, oh, yeah. And, you know, your mind takes you back. It's like, oh, yeah, that song. You think of the artist. You think of this, you know, the song. But mostly, you think about what's in the movie and you start to have it playing in your head. So here's another one that is indelibly recognized as a part of the movie from which it came. And it started the movie. First thing, you know, you see the first frames in the movie, you see the song, you see John Travolta's shoes, and you know he's staying alive. It starts out with just the shot of his shoes and he's walking, and then, you know, the Barry Gibb vocal comes in. The way the way I use my walk, I'm a woman's man, no time to talk. I mean, that's just absolutely just, you know, backs everything up that you're seeing on the screen. It's a great blend, you know, great way of seeing how music and visuals can come together to really give you a united message. The album was Saturday Night Fever. I mentioned this already because this was one of the first ones that basically was not a thematic score soundtrack, but it was a collection of different pop and rock songs. Of course, Saturday Night Fever is what we're talking about. This is the Bee Gees and a classic from them, Staying Alive.
You can tell by the way I use my walk, I'm a woman's man, no time to talk. Music loud, been me warm, been kicked around since I was born. Never tolerate, I don't hate, and you may look the other way, but we can try to understand and do your times are made not man. Whether you're a brother or whether you're a mother, you're staying alive, staying alive. We're the city breaking and everybody shaking, and we're staying alive, staying alive.
Okay, so we went from Rocky 3 to Saturday Night Fever and the song Staying Alive. So here's the funny thing. There was a sequel to Saturday Night Fever, which featured, once again, John Travolta as the character Tony Manero, who was a stage dancer, and the film was called Staying Alive. So the film takes the actual thing from the tune from the original song there. So Staying Alive, the sequel to Saturday Night Fever, taking the title from that song too. But the big song from that was called Far From Over, and it was done by Frank Stallone. Yes, brother of Sylvester Stallone, who produced Staying Alive. So it's like all this stuff, all these things just like mesh together. It's like, it's a really small world sometimes out there. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Staying Alive was number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, another one, number 1 song from the big screen. It was number 3 on the dance charts too, and won a Grammy for Best Vocal Arrangement for two or more voices, and obviously the brothers Gibb giving it full voice and really going for it there. So we go to a pop group. We jump about 8 years in the future now, 7-8 years in the future, and at the time, James Bond was about to start looking for a new James Bond because Roger Moore had just done his last film, A View to a Kill. So they were kind of trying to be more contemporary with it. I mean, you know, you look back to like Octopussy, it was Rita Coolidge. You know, Shirley Bassey did Moonraker, and Carly Simon did some, you know. And then they had, later on you'd have a-ha doing The Living Daylights. But for the last Roger Moore film, they got the hottest band at the time, who was Duran Duran. And to give you an idea of how hot they were and what they did for the Bond franchise, A View to a Kill, I believe to this day, is the only James Bond theme released as a single that hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. There have been like top 20, top 10 hits all over the place, but the first number 1 hit for a James Bond theme ever was this one, Duran Duran from 1985, A View to a Kill. Yes, indeed, Dancing into the Fire with Duran Duran and A View to a Kill, the only James Bond theme song to hit the number one spot on the Billboard Hot 100 at the time. Duran Duran was a really hot act. However, this is the last song recorded in the studio by this group in that original incarnation. I mean, they all get back together later on, but this is the point where they started to lose people. I believe Roger Taylor left, and also Andy Taylor left, so they lost a couple of the Taylors. John was still there, along with Simon Le Bon and Nick Rhodes, but they brought in Warren Cucurullo eventually on guitar, who had played with Missing Persons before, so they had some shakeups. But that original lineup, the original Simon Le Bon, Andy Taylor, Roger Taylor, John Taylor, Nick Rhodes, that lineup, for their first time out before their first split, this was the last song they recorded in the studio together. So kind of sad news for those Duran Duran fans. But once again, a terrific, terrific song. And you've heard me already talking in a previous episode, talking about John Taylor and how much I love the bass lines he puts out. This is another great one from him. And by the way, it was co-composed with Duran Duran and also John Barry, who at the time was pretty much the stock composer for the Bond themes. Had done a whole bunch of them at that point. In fact, right up through like the late 60s, John Barry just did a bunch of the soundtracks, right? With a few deviations. George Martin did Live and Let Die. Marvin Hamlish did Spy Who Loved Me. But John Barry did a lot of this stuff, so that was him. So anyway, so there we go. So A View to a Kill from 1985 from Duran Duran. And now this next song comes from a movie. The movie itself was highly anticipated. Everyone's like, oh, what's this movie going to be like? Because it was a popular artist, and it was his first feature film. And people are like, oh, what's this going to be about? What's the music going to be like? And this came out in advance of the movie. This was the first single to come off the album. And this became the year of this album and this film. The film and the album I'm talking about, obviously, Prince's Purple Rain. This was the first single. And once again, just topped the pop chart, but also the hot R&B singles, Cashbox, Billboard dance charts. I mean, this was number one all over the place. This song was everywhere. It's still fantastic. When Doves Cry.
Animals strike curious poses. They feel the heat between me and you. Just leave me standing alone in a world that's so cold. Maybe I'm just too demanding. Maybe I'm just like my father, too bold. Maybe you're just like my mother. She's never satisfied. Why do we scream at each other? This is what it sounds like when doves cry.
So for those of you who weren't around at the time, Purple Rain came out on the heels of 1999, which had come out a couple of years previously. And everyone was psyched because they loved 1999. 1999 gave multiple hit singles. People loved Prince. I mean, at the time, you were pretty much at peak Prince. And there was talk of the film. It's like, oh, what's this going to be like? And Purple Rain actually was a hit. The soundtrack was a hit and gave us many great singles. The title track, obviously. What else was there? There was Let's Go Crazy, I Would Die For You, and Take Me With You. I mean, just a ton from this movie. Great soundtrack and a great film, once again. Purple Rain from Prince. And here's another thing, too. The fact that this song, in 2016, when it was announced that Prince had passed away, people started getting into this song again. Song went back on the charts and peaked at number 8. So you're talking, 1984 to 2016, you're talking, about 32 years. So 32 years after its initial release, after Prince had passed away, people had, gotten this song again, and obviously nowadays it's more digital, downloading, streams, things like that. But whatever they're charting now, the song came in at number 8, just on the strength of people's love for Prince upon him passing away. And that's going to wrap up this edition of Platter Chatter. Of course, we talked about some great big songs from the big screen, some big movies and some huge songs, as I've illustrated here. And we're wrapping up. But before I do wrap it up, just a reminder, please hit that like and subscribe button. Help us build the channel and let us know you like what we're doing here. And also, all you have to do is, if you want to see a certain type of music, if you want to see a certain type of subject that we should do on the show, if you have any suggestions, you can drop us a line in the comments here or send me an email at billthedj@goinvinyl.com. You can even send us maybe a message on Facebook too. You can follow us there. We're under Goin Vinyl TV. And that's going to drop the curtain on another edition of Platter Chatter. But of course, we'll be coming back with more. I mean, today we did big songs on the big screen and some great films. Actually, what you want to do right now is you want to hear how great these songs worked in these films. Check some of these films out. The films I mentioned in this episode today. Go on Netflix or Amazon or whatever and check them out, because really, the music is an integral part of the overall presentation, and that's why they were such big hits, and that's why we love them so. Anyway, we'll be back with more episodes. In fact, obviously, this list is not complete, so maybe at some point we'll come back with a volume 2 of big songs from the big screen, and who knows, I think even probably Kenny Loggins will show up again in one incarnation or another. But anyway, that's going to do it for us today, but do come back next time we come your way with more vinyl goodness from the place where the platters still matter and the records still rock. Of course, we're talking about all the goodness that's behind me right here on Platter Chatter. I'm Bill Robert, your host. Thank you so much for tuning in today.